Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Olasino. I'm an account executive with CCSI, Contemporary Computer Services, Inc. I hope everyone, your families, and friends are doing well at this time. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's How Secure is Your Cloud Investment webinar. Today, our Cloud Practice Manager, Joe Goldberg, will be presenting. For those of you not familiar with CCSI, we've been in business for over 45 years, since 1974. And our core competencies include cloud services, such as migration, backup, disaster recovery, cost containment, and today's topic, cloud security. Also, security services, 24/7 Security Operations Center, real-time breach detection, risk assessments, pen and vulnerability testing, DDoS solutions, secure mail, and endpoint protection. Also, infrastructure, 24/7 Network Operations Center. We provide remote access, working from home capabilities, data center, IPT, wireless, and disaster recovery. We also offer 24/7 application monitoring services and 24/7 hardware break-fix services. For any questions during today's WebEx, please place them in our WebEx chat. And now I'd like to take this opportunity and introduce you to Joe Goldberg of CCSI.
Thanks, Joe. I hope everybody is doing well out there. This talk on cloud security is kind of time perfect because of all that's going on. I'm sure people are moving some resources into the cloud and have a lot of people working from home. So we'll just dive right in. So why is security in general so hard? In general, because there's a lack of visibility to see what's going on in your infrastructure, what traffic is moving, what files are moving, what people are doing. And there's a low degree of automation. Automation helps create a secure environment because once you create it once, it's repeatable over and over again. Before the cloud and the advent of DevOps, you could either move fast or stay secure, but you couldn't do both at the same time. Now, you can move fast and stay secure at the same time with some good operational practices and some tooling. Just a reminder for those of you that are in the cloud or for people who weren't aware, that all cloud service providers use a shared responsibility model. I chose this one from AWS, but the model is the same from Azure and Google as well. The cloud provider is responsible for securing their facilities, the physical security, the compute infrastructure, the storage infrastructure, network, virtualization, hardening the endpoints, etc. But you as a user are still responsible for having a sane network configuration, properly configured security groups, OS and network firewalls, operating system security, and this includes patching. Patching is probably the simplest security thing that you can do. Application security, service configuration, data security, and security automation. Combining those together, you end up with a more secure and compliant system than you could have on-prem. The three major challenges that today's CIOs are facing now are talent shortages in DevOps and security. You're seeing a lot of jobs across cybersecurity and DevOps. A lot of companies have gone to hiring remote workers just so that they can get the talent. Vendor tool and alert overload is a big issue. There's a lot of different tools. You end up with a lot of different panes of glass, probably all of which tell you they can be the sole pane of glass. And how do you keep pace with the rate of innovation? Technology is changing at an insanely fast pace nowadays. All of this means that security in the cloud is not a technology problem, but it's an operational problem. So throwing more and more technology at it is not necessarily going to fix the problem. You need to fix your internal processes and procedures. And that's part of where CCSI excels. CCSI is all about solving problems and not just pitching new technologies. The top problems of today's CISOs in the cloud are identity and access management, or IAM, ever-evolving network perimeter. You have users doing more and more stuff mobile. You have more and more SaaS applications. Your data is spread over a much larger landscape than it ever was before. but your compliance needs are still so. And you have hybrid cloud and security policy management as you have resources online in on-prem and you move resources out to different cloud providers. You need to keep the same security policy in place and the same security posture in place. Just here's a list of unfortunate events between 2017 and 2018. These were all recorded in AWS. During that time frame, 386 million records were exposed. I'm sure you remember some of these, like the Verizon or Accenture or GoDaddy or FedEx. 6 out of 11 of those incidents involved data exposed by an affiliate, partner, or customer. So a good example is the Target breach. Actually, wasn't Target that got breached. It was one of their credit card processing partners that got breached. 100% of the incidents involved an unsecured S3 bucket in AWS. By default, S3 is deployed to be not public. You can make your bucket public. Some people will do that because they think it makes things easier, but it also exposes all of your data to the world. 57% of the survey respondents were concerned or very concerned that in the next 12 months, misconfigured systems such as server workloads or cloud services could lead to a successful attack. And we're going to talk about how to prevent some of that. So some cloud security fundamentals. Within the cloud, there are kind of like a triad of tools that are at the basic levels of security. You have your permission management, which controls access to your entire cloud infrastructure. Most cloud providers call it IAM, or Identity and Access Management. You have data encryption. All of your data should be encrypted at rest, whether it's in block storage or in object storage. It should be encrypted at rest. And you should take advantage of the cloud-provided key management services or use your own key management service to manage the keys for encryption and decryption. And you need to have control over your network. You need to ensure that your endpoints are secure and that you're only allowing in the traffic that needs to be allowed in, and that private subnets remain private. And that's done in the cloud through virtual private clouds. So what is IAM? The I is for authentication, support for human and application caller IDs. So this is how humans log on to AWS or Azure. And it's also how applications make API calls within the infrastructure. And the AM piece is for authorization. All the cloud providers have their own flexible permissions language so that you can get very granular in providing permissions for both users and applications. Every cloud service uses IAM to authenticate and authorize API calls, so it's important, it's critical that you understand this. What builders needed to know: how to make authenticated API calls so your applications will work against IAM identities. And you need to have a basic fluency in the policy language of whichever cloud providers you're using. They're all kind of similar, but they all have notable differences that you should be aware of. KMS, or Key Management Service. All cloud providers provide a managed key service to manage the keys that are used for encrypting and decrypting data that's stored at rest. You can use the KMS services that the cloud providers provide you, or you can roll your own. It's not that hard to build a key management service of your own. So what you need to know in order to use it is you need to understand the basics of a key management server and how to integrate it with your services and how to integrate it with IAM, because you wouldn't want, just some random developer all of a sudden getting access to all of your encryption keys. The VPC, or virtual private cloud, is kind of like your virtual private data center. You're making like a virtual box within the cloud environment that all of your equipment is going to run in. It can be broken up into various subnets as well, and some can be public, some can be private. When you deploy cloud infrastructure into your VPC, it's the network that provides connectivity. Things you need to understand about VPC is the core concepts of how to subnet, and basic security groups, routing basic and outside the VPC and routing to other people's accounts, and private connectivity capabilities, whether it's AWS's Direct Connect or Azure's Express Route or IPsec VPN. You need to understand how you're going to connect to your resources. And then within the cloud, there are a lot of technologies to help you gain a security advantage. Probably one of the most important is infrastructure as code. I have two examples here. One is Terraform, which is cloud agnostic. You can do infrastructure as code to pretty much any cloud provider with Terraform, and CloudFormation, which is AWS specific. Terraform is a great tool for build it once and then push it out to AWS, push it out to Azure, push it out to Google Cloud, and you will have the same security posture. You don't have to worry about human error. Somebody forgot to set up a firewall. Somebody forgot to do this. It will be the same every time. Kind of the benefits are the simplification and repeatability of deployment, distribution of confirmed golden images. So once you have an infrastructure that's secure and meets all of your requirements, you can now deploy this anywhere you need to. Disaster recovery, it works great because you can build out your infrastructure in another site should the primary site be destroyed or become disabled. It gives you standardization and out-of-the-box compliance. Most of the infrastructure as code tools have the ability to have their code tested against various compliance standards like CIS and NIST and Amazon's well-architected framework. You also need to be able to protect against the accidental issues within your infrastructure, accidental security problems. And you can use cloud security posture management for it. Tools in this realm ensure that your environment stays in policy. It prevents drift and limits the risk. And just looking at it from the key characteristics of a product that would do this is out-of-the-box compliance checks, workload discovery, cloud native, automated remediation, continuous security, policy management, unified visibility, and of course, 24/7. You also need to be able to stop the intentional, and for that, you would use a cloud workload protection or CWPP for managing and increasing attack surface that is fundamentally unfamiliar to many IT and IT security professionals. So you need to protect all the stuff that's in the cloud now, from brute force attacks, vulnerability exploits, web app attacks, IoT attacks. It's a different attack surface than being on-prem. So things that you need to look for are host-based protections. You need to protect your containers and other microservices, also your serverless, native tools integration. A lot of the cloud providers have native tools that will help you with this, and any tools that you get should be able to integrate back to the cloud providers. Compliance, app control and whitelist, unified visibility, and of course, 24/7. The last one we have is CASB, which has been around for a while. It's a cloud access security broker. I found the stat kind of interesting that an average enterprise uses 1,427 distinct cloud services. The average employee uses 36, and 18.1% of the files uploaded to cloud-based services contain sensitive data. I'm sure there's some CISOs that are not happy about seeing those stats. The characteristics of a CASB would be data security, insider threat, DLP, which is critical, secure shadow IT, which is also critical. It has to integrate with IAM or other authentication management, and has to be unified visibility, and of course, 24/7. So kind of to close it off and to give the final three takeaways, the cloud has changed everything. We have to secure all of our workloads against both accidental and intentional threats. The hard part of security is not a technology problem, it's an operations problem. And you can use the cloud to deliver continuous security and compliance with the right tools and the right procedures. And CCSI is here to help you with all of those. Thank you very much. And are there any questions?
Thank you, Joe. I actually had two questions. One was, typically, Joe, what's your recommendation for something like this? Like, how would you get started? Would it be an assessment, or what would you recommend for a company, that would be interested to move forward?
That's a great question. The first step would be to do an assessment, a cloud security assessment, where we would come in and scan your environment and see where you are in compliance and out of compliance with best practices based off of the CIS framework and AWS's well-architected framework. And then from there, we could move to what the next steps would be based on the results of the CSA.
And then another question, Joe, was typically, like, what is the time frame of an assessment to get started, from the beginning to the middle to the end, and from your recommendations, what would be a possible phase 2?
The assessment takes, on average, depending upon the size of the environment, 2 weeks. And phase 2 would be working with the customer to help them remediate any outstanding issues. And then another assessment is performed on the back end of that to ensure that their remediations were successful, and to also give the customer a report that they can hand off to an auditor or to another customer.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Those were the questions I had. And at this time, I wanted to thank you for your time today. Your account manager will be following up to discuss next steps. And for anyone that's interested, at 2 p.m. today, we'll be hosting a webinar on steps to take to ready your business continuity plans. So if you'd like to attend and require WebEx information, you can email me directly at jaolicino@ccsInet.com. That's J for Joe, AULICINO @ccsInet.com. Or feel free to call me, 631-220-1712. Thank you again. Have a great day and be safe, everyone.